Smash that like button and that subscribe button. You see me working hard for the money over here. Subscribe for more exclusive content.
So let's start with the big question, the one that's really at the heart of everything. Who truly controls the money printer? Is it the government? Is it the big central banks? Or, as a growing number of people believe, could it actually be folks like you and me? This question, well, it's ground zero for one of the biggest battles shaping our world right now.
And in this explainer, we are diving head first into that conflict over the future of money itself. You see, there are two incredibly powerful and totally competing visions for how our entire commercial world should work. And folks, they are on a collision course.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start by laying out these two opposing worlds. Then, we'll get into the populist dream of money, followed by the super sophisticated game the big institutions are playing. After that, we'll explore the deep, kind of wild legal code of the sovereign individual. And finally, we'll see how technology might just be the thing that builds a bridge between it all.
Okay, let's get into it. Section 1. The two commercial worlds. This is really the main event, the arena where the future of how we buy, sell, and even what the law means is being fought.
So on one side, you have the public world. This is the system we all know, right? It's regulated, it's supposed to be transparent, and it's controlled by the big banks and governments. But on the other side, a completely different private world is taking shape. This one is all about being sovereign, anonymous, and controlled not by institutions, but by individuals and the power of cryptographic code. These two systems are built on totally opposite ideas, and that right there is where things get interesting.
So, how does this conflict actually play out in the real world? Well, let's start with the first big idea. Section 2, the populist's money printer. This whole movement is about grabbing financial control not from the top down, but from the ground up.
This quote from a crypto advocate called Bitcoin Bob just nails the spirit of this movement. The idea is so simple, but it's totally revolutionary. It's about saying, stop just being a consumer of money that central banks create out of thin air. It's time to become a producer of money by owning the means of production yourself. And in this world, that means owning Bitcoin miners.
So how does owning the money printer actually work? Well, it just comes down to the raw economics. The argument goes like this. You can actually produce one Bitcoin through mining for about $47,000, give or take depending on your electricity cost. Now, if the market price for that same Bitcoin is almost double that, you're essentially getting the hardest asset in the world for half off. That's not just a hobby, that's an incredibly powerful economic advantage.
But you gotta understand, this is about way more than just personal profit. It's a full-on economic and political movement. The ultimate goal is to literally wrestle control of the money printer away from central banks like the Fed, put that power back into the hands of private citizens, and then build a whole new financial ecosystem on top of it, one that's decentralized and owned by the people.
Okay, so while the populists are out there trying to build a whole new system from the outside in, the big institutions are playing a very, very different game. Let's move to Section 3, the institutional playbook. This is all about reshaping finance from within the system we already have.
And their secret weapon is a powerful financial tool called non-recourse capital. Now, what is that? Just imagine being able to get a massive loan, but if it all goes wrong, the lender can only take the specific thing you put up as collateral. They can't touch your other assets, they can't touch your company, they can't touch your personal bank account. It's a way to take on huge projects with almost no personal risk.
And here's a quick look at how they pull it off. First, a third party, not the person getting the money, buys up a bunch of collateral, often worth more than double what's needed. Then, they assign that collateral to a bank. Now the bank feels super safe, so it releases 100% of the cash to the project applicant. The interest payments then flow back to the person who put up the collateral. And here's the magic part. The applicant gets all the money they need and keeps total control of their project, all without risking their own stuff.
So what makes this whole structure so rock solid? You gotta think of the money supply like a set of those Russian nesting dolls. The smallest doll, M1, that's your cash. M2 is a bit bigger. That adds in savings. But the biggest, most stable layer of them all is M3. These are the massive, long-term deposits held by big institutions. By using these M3 assets as the bedrock collateral, the entire system is built on the strongest financial foundation possible. It's incredibly stable.
So we've seen the populist game and the institutional game. But there's a third philosophy at play here, and honestly, it's a much deeper, more radical one. Section 4, the sovereign individual's code.
This is about trying to operate completely outside the public system by becoming a master of its own rules.
Now, at the very heart of this idea is a pretty controversial legal theory known as the straw man. And the theory goes like this. When you're born, the government creates a legal fiction, like a corporate version of you, usually with your name in all caps. The argument is that it's this fictional entity, this straw man, that's subject to all the taxes, regulations, and laws, not the actual living, breathing you. The whole goal, then, is to legally separate yourself from this public entity.
But, and this is a huge but, actually putting this theory into practice is another story. Take this anecdote from a traffic court case. A guy stands up and tries to claim he's a sovereign, not subject to the court. The judge isn't buying it. Well, the very next day, that same guy goes and cashes a paycheck tied to his public straw man identity. The judge finds out and immediately shuts his whole argument down. The lesson? You can't just say you're private. Your actions have to back it up. In this view, by cashing that check, he proved he was still playing in the public world. So you've got the public world of institutions and the private world of populists and sovereigns, and they seem like they're totally at odds, right? But what if technology could actually build a bridge between them? That brings us to our final section, bridging worlds with code. This proposed bridge isn't made of steel. It's made of 4 key technologies working together perfectly. Think of it like this. Notary chain is like the digital courthouse, locking in legal facts so they can't be changed. Special tokens, like ERC 3643, are the bouncers at the door, making sure only approved people can get in. UTXO proofs are like a transparent bank vault, proving the money's actually there. And zero-knowledge proofs, they're like a secret handshake that proves you're following the rules without having to reveal all your private info.
And make no mistake, the ambition here is absolutely massive. This isn't about creating some faster payment app. We are talking about building a potential replacement for the DTCC. You know, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, that's the central plumbing, the entire backbone of the traditional stock market that handles trillions of dollars in transactions every single day.
At the end of the day, all this tech, all these competing ideas, are really trying to do one thing. They are trying to redefine trust itself. By creating a system that can be transparent and private, regulated and decentralized, it could lay a whole new foundation for the old world of finance and the new digital one. Which leaves us with the final absolutely critical question. As all these powerful forces, the populist energy, the institutional money, the sovereign philosophy, and this disruptive tech, as they all slam into each other, are we watching them merge into some new hybrid system? Or is one of these worlds about to make the other one completely and totally obsolete? The future of money is hanging right there in the balance.
You know, there's a quiet revolution going on right now, and it's all about reshaping the very idea of money. It's happening in places you probably wouldn't expect. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into a movement that could totally change how you save, how you spend, and really how you think about wealth itself. So let me just start by asking you this. What if the US dollar wasn't the only game in town when it comes to official money? Just imagine a world where states, companies, and maybe even you could operate with totally different but still legally recognized forms of money. I know, it sounds a little bit like science fiction, but it's actually getting closer to reality than you might think. And here's the thing, this isn't just one single movement. It's really a challenge happening on a bunch of different fronts all at once. You've got stuff happening in state capitals with gold and silver, you've got the whole world of crypto on the blockchain, and then there are these really bold legal theories popping up in the courts. To really get where this is all headed, we first have to understand the system that they're all trying to change. So first up, let's do a quick breakdown of the system we're all living in right now. Okay, it all boils down to this one core idea. Legal tender. Put simply, it's the one type of money that the government guarantees will pay off any debt. It's like the official measuring stick for every bit of economic activity, and that's what gives the government its power over money. So yeah, for basically everyone alive today, the US dollar has been the one and only game in town, and it's all controlled by a central authority. But here's the twist. Right now, parallel financial worlds are being built to run alongside, and sometimes completely outside of this very system. So what do these alternatives actually look like? Well, we're going to explore 3 really fascinating parallel worlds taking shape as we speak. One is physical, one is totally digital, and the last one, well, it's purely legal. The first parallel world is something you can literally hold in your hand. It's this state-led push to bring back gold and silver. I mean, the oldest forms of money there are. as officially recognized currency. And this is becoming surprisingly practical. I mean, look at Utah. They kicked this whole thing off way back in 2011 by getting rid of capital gains taxes on gold and silver. And now you've got states like Texas building their own bullion depositories so you can make digital payments with gold. Florida is even creating entire regulatory frameworks for it. They're not just saying gold is money anymore. They're actually building the plumbing to make it usable every single day. All right, next up, we're going digital. And this is where things get really interesting, because you see this fascinating split between a grassroots, almost populist vision for crypto and a super-structured, institutional one. So on one side, you have the populist dream of Bitcoin mining being a money printer for the people, right? It's designed to snatch power away from central banks. But then, on the complete other side, you have massive institutions building their own regulated private systems to replace the core plumbing of Wall Street. We're talking about things like the DTCC, which clears trillions of dollars in stock trades, all to make huge transactions faster and more secure. This quote just perfectly captures the passion of that populist vision. For them, this isn't about creating some new asset to trade on an exchange. No, this is about a fundamental transfer of power. It's about taking control over money creation away from the big central institutions and handing it over to a decentralized network. Now, this third parallel world is probably the most abstract. But you gotta stick with me, because it's the legal and philosophical foundation that a lot of these other movements pull from. It's all about creating private legal structures that can operate outside the public system. At the very heart of this legal world is this really complex idea called the straw man theory. The folks who believe in this argue that when your birth certificate is created, the government actually creates a legal version of you, a kind of public entity that can make contracts and be regulated. And in their view, you, the actual living, breathing person, are just the beneficiary of this entity, while the state is the ultimate manager or trustee. So what's the countermove? Well, it's to create your own private entity, what's called an express trust, where you are the one in charge. You're the trustee. The whole point is to build this legal fortress around your assets, one that's designed to operate outside the public system's rules and liabilities. It's basically a legal strategy to try and reclaim total financial sovereignty. So, okay, we've got these three parallel worlds. But how on earth do they connect to the financial system we all use every day? Well, that is where new technology comes into play. Look, these aren't just abstract ideas floating around anymore. Really sophisticated tech is being built right now to connect these parallel worlds to the mainstream economy, which makes them actually practical for real-world use. Let's use a concrete example to make this real. Texas is making physical gold spendable in the digital age. It's pretty simple. You deposit your gold into a state-run vault, the value of that gold gets linked to an app on your phone, and boom, all of a sudden you can buy a cup of coffee with gold. It's old money being powered by brand new tech. And the technology making this happen is surprisingly sophisticated. You have platforms using blockchain to create these tamper-proof digital records. They're tokenizing real-world assets to make them super easy to trade. And crucially, they're making sure all these transactions are legally enforceable under the Uniform Commercial Code. That's the rulebook for all commerce in the US. They're even creating their own private arbitration systems to settle disputes. This is the high-tech plumbing that connects all these new worlds. So, after exploring all these different fronts, the physical, the digital, the legal, what does it all add up to? What is this new financial landscape actually starting to look like? Well, what we're really witnessing is the birth of a multi-layered system. It's a system where the official, government-backed dollar coexists with state-sanctioned precious metals, with decentralized digital currencies, and with these private, legally insulated commercial worlds. And that leaves us with one final and I think really crucial question. Is all of this evolution leading us to a future with more financial freedom and more choice for everyone? Or is it just paving the way for a more fragmented, more complex, and maybe even a more unequal financial world? The answer to that? Well, it's being written as we speak.